I get really excited when I get an idea that I think is going to make a good painting. And I start making rapid sketches. Sometimes they're very rough and gestural. And that, I think, might surprise people who are familiar with my work and see it as a sort of nitpicky process of painting every hair on an animal. It doesn't start out that way at all. I'm Walton Ford. I paint large-scale watercolors of animals. I'm interested in animals as they relate to human culture. That can mean in folklore, it can mean literary sources. These birds and animals live in my imagination and in my studio.
Walton Ford, Birds and Beasts of the Studio, is a survey of some 63 drawings that Walton gave to the Morgan in 2019. It's an opportunity to see these works on view for the first time, all from his studio, and to look at his working process as he creates these enormous, spectacular, ambitious watercolors that are monumental in scale.
I paint animals because they were the first things I drew when I was a child. I was a suburban kid, so I was sort of starved for interaction with nature. It was in the early 90s that I wanted to paint my own Audubon watercolors. What I wanted to do was to sort of imagine Audubon's hypnagogic nightmare. I wanted to sort of access his psychological life and make watercolors based on that. It started out as just a sort of experiment, but I just felt that I was onto something.
Walton both has connection to that tradition, but he also brings a completely modern sensibility and individual approach to this because he's looking at the complex role of climate change, of colonialism, and often brings satire and irony to bear on his subject matter. So it's a very different approach than we see throughout much of time.
Even when there are no people in my paintings, the human element is in there. And so it could just be a fragment, like in this exhibit, a short account in a zookeeper's manual about a black panther that escaped from the Zurich Zoo in 1933. And just knowing that alone allows my imagination to take over. This exhibition is unlike any one I've ever had because basically the Morgan has done for me what it does absolutely the best, and that is to allow the viewer into the artist's thinking and process. The urgency and the sort of freshness of that moment of inspiration is what this show is about. The first thing I paint is the whole panther bright red, and then add layers of black on top of that.
And so you're testing it out a little bit on this scale before...
On this scale, oh my gosh. If I can do it on a little, if I'm doing a 10-foot by 5-foot painting, sometimes I make a 10-inch by 5-inch little study. And that way I can do it in a matter of moments. I can't find my way into a giant watercolor until I've done something like this.
Mm-hmm. We also let Walton explore the drawings in our vaults to find works that he responded to. So we really get inside the mind of the artist through this selection. One of the ones you chose was this great drawing by Audubon of the eastern gray squirrel. What about this do you find you connect with, but also how do you see your work being different?
This is an incredible drawing. This is the Central Park squirrel we're talking about. This is the squirrel everyone knows in New York for sure. It's like a piece of calligraphy. Mm-hmm. It's so elegant. The tails all making these wild shapes, the branch, it's incredibly beautiful. So his process is revealed by this as well. And I started out trying to imitate work like this.
This is one of your favorite works.
My mind is always blown. It's a Gustave Doré drawing. It's of a lion, but the lion is discoverable. The face of the lion is usually the moment that everybody wants to paint.
Yeah, the big reveal. Yeah.
The big sort of cliche is to show him roaring and to seem proud. And Doré has this lion just sort of, he's just sort of walking.
Yeah, it's almost banal. He's just heading to this shady
heading
spot
into
in this
the cave. It's out of focus and it's in the shadows. And the thing that's picked out with great detail and fidelity are all the rocks. And so what I see is that my work started out as Audubon-like because I would do a central animal against a white page and sort of just go with the kind of all of the tropes of natural history art. And Doré's thrown all of that away. In my more recent work, I have learned more from works like this. So this is a great teacher to me right now, like studying this drawing. I can't help but continually use the word humble to describe how I feel that my works are now included in the Morgan collection. I'm blown away to be in the company of these objects. we've got Rembrandt, Gustave Doré, Delacroix. I mean, we're talking about the greatest geniuses that have ever tried to make pictorial work. And seeing them at their freshest, when they're first coming up with ideas or with their actual touch, being able to see that is something that is just always magic.